All right. Hello and welcome everyone to another of the Builds Refresh 2022. Today we're going to talk about HILDRYN. So, HILDRYN has a very goofy build as the build that is, I would say, really worth it for her to run. This build is basically an AFK build, and it works in Steel Path. Now, it's not like busted in Steel Path, but the fact that it works at all in Steel Path with what you have to do to get it running is honestly pretty hilarious. So today we're going to be talking about building around Haven and Pillage. So Blazing Pillage. This requires Haven to be active, and it says that enemies affected by Haven will be set ablaze for 200 heat damage and restore 50 additional shields to HILDRYN. So this is kind of a patchwork to make it so that her 2 works on enemies that don't have armor or shields of their own. And then whenever you use this, basically it makes it work on everything. So you can use this against infested. And then heat procs are very good. So if you apply a bunch of heat to a bunch of enemies and they don't have any shields or armor to protect themselves, generally speaking, they die. In addition to that, this build is utilizing a hilarious interaction with Electric Elemental Ward. I bet you weren't expecting that one. And it is absolutely goofy in that the AoE of Elemental Ward, the damage you're taking will be returned back to enemies. But HILDRYN uses her shields as energy, and whenever she spends her shields, that counts for the Electric Elemental Ward to kick out damage. So basically, the more shields you spend, the more damage Elemental Ward will kick out to those enemies, in addition to them being heat procced, and also having all of their possible defenses removed. And that's hilarious. So this build is pretty much prime sure-footed. I'm going to hang out. You can't knock me down. I'm going to spam the shit out of 2, and I'm going to make sure Haven is on, which is just a channeled ability, very easy to keep going. And then I'm going to turn Elemental Ward on every single time that it turns off. This also raises the amount of shields that you can have, which is, of course, beneficial to HILDRYN. And it's just pretty funny. We have like 300% strength, so the amount of strip that we're getting is 74%. In any regular level mission, I'm going to tell you right now, enemies evaporate when they have their defenses removed, and then they attain this heat proc. And they double evaporate if you have Elemental Ward on, because in the regular level missions, like level 50 missions, it's hilarious overkill. But it is a thing that you can do. Then, of course, we're using adaptation to make this like just super comfy, like 6,000 shields with 90% DR, like just absolutely hanging out. Like, let me be very frank. You can eat a sandwich while playing this build, because this build mostly consists of making sure you hit the buttons. So yeah, let's show how it works against these simulacrum enemies. Obviously, these simulacrum enemies that I use are level 185, and they just don't stand a chance at all. So all you need to do for this build, turn your 3 on. Turn your 1 on, which is Elemental Ward, which is not required, but it's just hilarious and nice. And then just spam 2. This is it. Obviously, until these guys die, they're going to be eating all of the procs. But because they eat all the procs off all the enemies around them, that means they die from those procs, pretty much. And then the heavy gunners don't really survive this for very long, because their armor gets gone, and then the heat procs will just eat them. And they all die. Everyone gets burn electricity to death in an AoE around you. And your 3 doesn't drain when everyone's dead, so that's nice. You don't have to turn it off whenever you're in an empty room. And that's what the build does. It works in Steel Path, which is just funny to me. I will say, in Steel Path, generally speaking, you are going to want to also shoot if you really want to keep your like numbers up on life support for like a survival or whatever. But in addition to it killing the enemies, because you're spamming 2, which is a defensive ability, you can't die. It's just constantly giving you back full shields in the like very full Steel Path rooms, and you stand basically absolutely 0 chance of ever dying. Yeah, you kind of just, yeah, it's just max chill. Max chill, just, you know, floating around, hitting 2, just doing the stuff, looking at your HILDRYN fashion, and enjoying yourself. If you want a mission to go away, like if you don't want to do this mobile defense right now, just have HILDRYN sit on it, and then you use the abilities and you press 2 while you know, drink an alcoholic beverage, have a sandwich, eat some Cheetos, like whatever you want to do with the time that you would otherwise spend like shooting the enemies in the mobile defense. They'll just electrify themselves to death with HILDRYN around with this build. And honestly, yeah, it's pretty decent. Like, it's a good farming build. Like, if you want to have absolutely zero risk applied, it does require line of sight, so certain tile sets for like farming are not going to be super great. But if you're not concerned with like maximum efficiency through walls and all that kind of business, real solid for it. So enjoy the Steel Path run. It's really just me goofing off. I did the same thing I did in the last video where I forgot to bring a companion, but because HILDRYN is also her own energy battery and stuff, that didn't matter at all. So yeah, enjoy the Steel Path run, and I will see you tomorrow.
Scans show Grenier are harvesting Kuba nearby. Set off the alarms to draw them out, then steal their Kuba catalysts. Predictable. As expected, Grenier have shut down the environmental systems, sending modified life support capsules. Use these to sustain your environment or attach Kuba catalysts to begin harvesting. Life support on the way. I delivered a life support capsule to the area. Activating it will buy you more time. Prepare for life support. Additional life support has arrived. Life support activated. Life support incoming. Another life support capsule is now available. Operative is making progress. This will help our cause. When you are ready, go to extraction. I've delivered another life support capsule. Critical life support levels. Extraction is your best option. Life support has been replenished. Look what our Tenno operative just found. They could not do this without you. Tenno, extraction is ready. Life support activated. Another life support capsule is now available. You are running out of time. Consider extraction.
Your will was greater. This is good.